Okay, very good. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Christopher Lowe, and really excited to have you joining us. This is the Team Coaching Zone podcast and website launch. Really exciting that you're joining us. We just turned on the lights of the website and the podcast on January 1. We got up in iTunes a couple of days later, and really just wanted to have a little ritual, a little opening session here today. Sorry, my phone is going off in the background. So just wanted to have a little ritual today to launch the website, the formal launch beginning today on January 15th, and to share with you what you can expect from the Team Coaching Zone, both the podcast and the website. And so if you're not attending this live, you can actually come back and listen to this again. This will be recorded, and we'll have a replay of that up on the website, so feel free to check that out. And anyways, thank you for joining us today. Why don't we just really dive into the session, and I can share with you a little bit about the launch. So the objectives for today's session, I just have three of them. Really light, brief webinar today. This is really a formal launch of the podcast and the website, just like I mentioned, a little sort of ritual to get this started and to have sort of a concrete launch date for the initiative. Just to provide a little bit of background, I conceived of the idea of doing this podcast and this website back in August of 2014. So for me today, 4.5 months later, this is a real special day. It's sort of a culmination of a lot of work that's gone into this, and I'm really excited. I think I have a lot of content coming for you, and I think you're going to really be enjoying that. So one today is really a formal launch of the podcast and the website. The second is really just to provide an overview of the purposes of the podcast and the website. So that's something I wanted to share on today's session. And then finally, to outline the value of both the podcast and the website and what this really can bring to listeners and to visitors. And thank you, just another person joined the session. So thanks for coming along. And so why don't we jump into this a little bit. I wanted to share just at the outset here what the purposes of the podcast and the website are. And the first is, when we look at sort of the explosive field of coaching, one-on-one coaching with leaders and managers and executives has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, let alone all the other types of coaching that are going on with life coaching and health coaching. And so coaching has just really exploded as a field. And so, now that the field is maturing, there's a lot of niching down happening where niches are starting to form in various coaching areas. And so while, the coaching of leaders and managers and organizations has become really explosive, the coaching of teams and, the groups that follow those leaders and managers has really yet to kick off. And so most organizations have executive and leadership coaching programs, but some research suggests only about 30% of companies are actually doing what we would call team coaching. And so team coaching, it's like, the two sides of the coin. You need a leader and a manager, but a leader and a manager can't be a leader and manager without a team, which is the other side of the coin. And so coaching has really been capturing one half of the equation. And so really the idea here in the team coaching zone is really to put a bit more of a spotlight on exploring the art and the science of coaching teams and organizations. And, that's really where I think a lot of impact can happen in organizations and in systems. And so that's really one of the purposes of the podcast, is really to contribute to a growing, emerging area, niche area in the broader coaching field. Working with teams, training teams, doing team building, team facilitation has been around for a long time. There's a lot of knowledge and great practice around that, but really working with a team over a period of time and its leader, to really build a sustainable process of change is still relatively new in organizational practice. And so I think this is a really exciting time to be getting into this area of work. A lot of opportunity for growth and innovation, sharing of best practices and tips and tools and techniques and ideas. So that's one of the big purposes of the podcast is really just contributing to exploring the art and the science of team coaching. And going along with that, as I just mentioned, is contributing to the development of the field of team coaching. But a big part here is, over the last couple of years, and if you've listened to some of the early podcasts that I've released in sharing some of my own experiences of how I've gotten into team coaching, I'm aware that a lot of the coaches who are going through coach training and through coach education are not getting a lot of training on how to coach groups or teams. And a lot of the coach training schools are really starting to add on that type of training to their certification programs. But I found myself in a lot of informal conversations with coaches who are really well trained to work with leaders and managers and executives. And oftentimes, as a result of their really good work with those leaders, end up being asked to do work with the leaders' teams, and oftentimes feeling really ill-equipped to really do so. And so, really, part of the podcast and the website is really about who's the audience here. It's really new and experienced team coaches. And so if you really are in coaching, you want to get into working with teams and coaching teams, then this podcast really may be right up your alley. And that's really part of the design, is really to bring the experience of real world organizational team coaches and learn from what they're doing, and identify the tips and tools that they use as they go about team coaching, so we can really support people in their growth in this area. In addition to new and experienced team coaches, what we're talking about here may be relevant to internal and external human resources and learning and development professionals. And so I know from speaking to another person recently who joined our group on LinkedIn, we have a Team Coaching Zone group on LinkedIn. She talked about, until I saw on your website and in our group on LinkedIn coining of the term team coaching, I never knew what to call what I was oftentimes doing as an internal human resources professional. And so there are people doing team coaching in organizations, may not even know what to call it. And so, we're welcoming of those folks in terms of the audience as well. So internal and external HR, learning and development professionals may find this topic of interest. And finally, a third audience for this podcast and website could be leaders and managers who are really looking for novel ways to work with their teams and to find some new ways to do that. I did a research study for a multinational organization that was really looking at understanding their coaching culture. And one of the things that came out of that study was, not only did in that organization they want more coaching for leaders and managers, but they also were really interested in team coaching. And in particular, the reason why was they felt that they needed novel ways, new ways to engage people. People are getting sort of tired and bored of the old team building retreats and team trainings. And so team coaching sort of appealed as a novel method. And so leaders and managers, struggling to really get teams accelerated around their development and performance, really may find some value in this podcast and in the website. So let me just share a little bit about my background, and then I just had just a couple slides in today's presentation, so we're going to keep it brief. So again, my name is Krister Lowe. I am an organizational psychologist. You can learn a lot about me in the episodes number 1 and 2 of the Team Coaching Zone podcast. You can download those on iTunes. But just briefly, who I am, I'm an organizational psychologist. I completed both a master's degree as well as a doctoral degree from Columbia University in New York City. And I've been sort of working in, really started my career in training, moved into consulting and facilitation, and then in the last 4 years really started to increase the amount of coaching that I was doing, and really in the last couple of years got more and more interested in team coaching, and that's sort of what brought me here to this work that I'm doing now around the Team Coaching Zone. I've been sort of in the field. I've had my own company now going on almost 15 years, have worked broadly all over the world, and really had a real diverse client base. I talk a little bit about this in my first couple of episodes of the Team Coaching Zone podcast, but a lot of work with the United Nations system really broadly. I do some work in financial services and professional services with universities, with nonprofits, foundations. And so as an organizational psychologist, I have a really broad view of organizations. And while there's some industries that I have some more depth of experience, I really enjoy working with organizations of all types and seeing what the similarities and differences are. And, really feeling like coaching both with leaders and managers and teams is something that is really needed in all sectors and industries. And I think you'll see that when you listen to the episodes of the Team Coaching Zone podcast, that I'm really bringing people onto the podcast from a whole range of backgrounds, working with a whole range of types of organizations. And I hope you'll find that interesting. And then, just the last piece here is really hosting this podcast. I spent the first 2 episodes of the podcast really more sharing about myself and my own experiences, team coaching, and then really moving forward, it's mainly going to be about interviewing other organizational team coaches. So you can check me out on LinkedIn if you go to LinkedIn and type in Krister Lowe, or go to the Team Coaching Zone website. You can learn a little bit more about me. So let me just sort of, we have just a couple slides left here to end today's brief launch webinar, I wanted to really share for you. So what's in it for you? What's the value that you can expect to receive as being involved in the website or in the podcast? So I have 6 things that I think may add value to new and experienced team coaches and to others who may be interested in the topic of team coaching. So the first one really, and I think this is the centerpiece of this website and this venture, is really going to be around the podcast. And the podcasts are going to be weekly. They release every Thursday. They're going to be roughly 45 to 60 minutes long. And really the flow of the podcast, there are like sort of 3 big pieces of the podcast episode. In the first part, we're just going to get to know the team coach, find out how they got into team coaching, and just learn a little bit about them, both personally and professionally. And then we're really going to get into the heart of the podcast, which is around really storytelling. I think through storytelling around what I call the hits and misses. So one success story of a successful team coaching engagement, and then one story where maybe part of it or all of it didn't go so well, we can really dig deep and mine for the gold of the lessons learned, the tips, the tools, the techniques. And I think for the team coaches that are listening to the podcast, they're going to get a lot of value from that. So try to make it practical, but really interesting, and talk about real experiences rather than just hypothetical or theoretical examples. We're going to really dig into some concrete stories, and we'll keep that confidential, but really try to tease out what was the process the coach went through, what was the challenge the team was facing, what were the ups and downs of the engagement, what did they learn about themselves and about the team, and what were sort of the factors that led to success or failure. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be doing in the weekly podcast. I have already January and February's podcasts recorded. I think there's some really amazing coaches out there that I've interviewed. I'm really excited to bring that content to you. And then every 10 or 15 episodes or so, I will come back and just do, a solo podcast to summarize some of the big learnings that we've had in those previous podcasts. So the podcast really is the engine here, and we're really excited to get that out. We've only had the podcast up informally for the last 2 weeks, but we already have over 100, downloads since starting. And today's really more the formal launch of this website and the podcast. So excited to see what the appetite is out there for this content. In addition to the podcast, we also have a blog on the website at teamcoachingzone.com/blog/blog. And in those blog posts, really short but to the point, articles and writing about team coaching. So I have a couple of blog posts already up, one on team 2015 being the year of team coaching. I have another blog post on understanding what is team coaching and what's its potential or promise. And so I'll be doing a lot of writing of those blog posts, but I'm going to be welcoming others to contribute blog posts as well. So you can expect 3 to 4 blog posts a month on the website in addition to the weekly episodes of the podcast. Webinars are going to be one of the other sort of key ways that we're going to be engaging with the audience. And really, these will be monthly. They may be on specific topics. Right now, what I'm envisioning is that I'm going to be inviting the guests in a given month. So in January, I'm going to invite the guests who are on the podcast to come to an informal style discussion where we can just have a coffee, tea house style informal hangout or chat where just, we can talk about what came up on the episodes and have some more informal conversation. And I think for those listeners who have been listening to the episodes, it'll be a great opportunity to come ask questions of the guests and have more of a group kind of informal dialogue. And so that's sort of the type of spirit I'm looking for in the webinars that we're going to be holding. And then from time to time we may have some special topic webinars like what we're doing today. All of these will be recorded. They're going to be posted on the Team Coaching Zone website /webinars for replay in case you can't attend a live session. So if you can make a live one, great. If you can't, you'll still be able to get access to the content. After each episode of the podcast, one of the things I do in the show notes is really capture all the recommended resources, tips, and tools that the coaches are sharing. And I've been sort of capturing those as a running log and library on the resources page of the website. So in there, you can get links to website resources, books, and articles. I have that linked up if people want to go in and check out a book or purchase a book through Amazon. There's links there. But what I'm going to do is really just kind of try to record and start building out a real great library of tips and tools and resources, free downloads, materials when I get them for the coaches. So that's another value that I think we're going to bring to you. And then we have a group on LinkedIn. So we have a place to discuss, to share information. That's an open group to everyone. There's a few ground rules in there just about conduct, but really an informal place, and the group is growing every day. So feel free to check that out, the Team Coaching Zone group on LinkedIn. You can connect to that through our website. There's a direct link through the social media links on our website. And then the final thing I'll share here is a monthly newsletter. So we're going to be sending out a monthly newsletter just with some updates, what to expect in terms of the upcoming month's podcast schedule, so you know which ones might be of interest to you or not, any blog posts that we've done, upcoming webinars, any special promotions or events. So those are sort of 6 really big sort of ways that we're going to try to add value to you. And I think you can expect these to be pretty consistent over the coming months, and then really to grow once our audience grows bigger and we get to know the audience more and their needs and preferences. We're going to, try to listen to those and see what we can do to continue evolving the site. So those are the 6 sort of big things you can expect from the webinar. And I really just wanted to end by sharing with you, so what are some ways that you can participate and support this work? So one is to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. And if you really like the content, leave a rating and review. That really can help out. So would love it if you did that, if you found the podcast material useful and you really enjoyed the episodes. Feel free to comment on the blog posts and attend the webinars. And if you're somebody who really wants to write a blog post, feel free to contact me, and maybe we can look into setting you up as a guest blogger on a specific topic if that's of interest to you. For sure, you can engage at any time in discussions in the Team Coaching Zone group on LinkedIn. Feel free to comment on other discussions that are initiated there, and even start your own. So already that's happening a bit in the group. If you have feedback for me or suggestions, really open to hearing from you. Would love to hear from you. So please do message me. Krister at teamcoachingzone.com is my email. That's KRISTER at teamcoachingzone.com. You can always hit me up there or in the LinkedIn group. And really, if you're comfortable spreading the word, so sending people to teamcoachingzone.com. We're active on Twitter. The Twitter handle is at teamcoachingzn, so TEAM coaching ZN. So Team Coaching ZN is how you can reach us on Twitter, and also the podcast on iTunes. So that's something you could share with your colleagues. That would be wonderful. So just wanted to thank you for joining today for our launch of the podcast and the website. Again, we're going to put this recording up onto our site, and so if you weren't able to attend the live session, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to engaging with you in the coming weeks and months, and hope you have a wonderful day.